And then we are, after we report, with this kind of provision, this will act as a deterrent for anybody to dishonor the fuel supply commitments which they have made. So if still that kind of situation where there is a disruption that arises, we have here, if you see combination of 29, uh, then 30F, 10, 4, and what is stated in the preamble. These will help us to take whatever steps we want to take further. All together will take us to take steps where that kind of conditions will not arise. Yeah, I think.
Make was, see, we're, first we're talking about the sustained fuel supply. Then we're talking about the stockpile, which is sufficient for the lifetime operation of the reactors. And then we're talking about if in spite of all that there are difficulties, then of course implement corrective measures. Now, and in this agreement, as you heard, you have, if there is a disruption in supply, we would report to the agency, and we have all these linkages built in, so we can also start our process. The point to notice is the discontinuity in operation of the reactor cannot happen suddenly, because we are talking about several layers. So we will have enough time to kind of force correction on part of supplier themselves, because we will have the stockpile and we can carry on. So there is no question of disruption of the reactors. And so as we've been always saying, we're talking about the permanent safeguards on the basis of permanent supplies. And the question of corrective measures, which has been built in, essentially arises if this understanding is breached. That's the point. There has to be always, a response has to be calibrated. Now, I'm not talking about response to your question, I'm talking about response to, it has to be always calibrated. And the corrective measures or corrective actions that India would take, it would depend on what is the disturbance, what is the threat to continued operation of the reactor. Now, it's a thing which India can decide at respective point of time. I describe corrective measures as unspecified sovereign actions. Everything. It includes everything. There is no restriction.
So, right. Smith, layman or in categorical terms, if you could see.
Well, I thought in terms of fuel supply, I have clarified already in sufficient detail. Sorry? Well, see, the question is any reactor that India declares as civilian, it will be first of all an Indian sovereign decision. And one of the tests for declaring or making such a declaration is that the reactor should be eligible for supplies, or the reactor should be eligible for the full civil nuclear cooperation. So, so that linkage will always be there, whether it is for present reactor as well as for future reactor, because that is how this is the part of the understanding that if something is declared as civilian, it has to be eligible for the external civil nuclear cooperation. So that defines everything. With regard to your second question, see, first of all, let's be clear. We are a nuclear weapon state. We know that, world knows that. Now, these definitions of nuclear weapon state and non-nuclear weapon state, these are definitions embedded in NPT. And we are not a party to NPT. So I don't think we should worry too much about those definitions. The fact is, we are talking about opening up of civil nuclear cooperation, fully recognizing that this cooperation domain is restricted to the civilian facilities that India so declares, and also recognizing that there is a part of the program which is outside this, which is so it is the strategic program is completely insulated. Now we have a nuclear weapons program, and that program is insulated from this. So I think what more is necessary, and certainly we don't have to really be so attracted towards NPT definitions, because we are not a part of NPT.
No, I mean, no. Okay. The experts have been speaking, but I don't know. I don't understand why there's still such a big question mark about fuel supply assurances. Subject to correction by Dr. Kakodkar and Dr. Grover. This, hopefully, the India-specific safeguards agreement with the IAEA will facilitate the processes by which we can get foreign fuel. If I understand it right, I think every reactor that we will need a specific contract for the supply of foreign fuel. The agreement also provides for, as contrary to what the Hyde Act wanted at that stage, that we can get a stockpile for the lifetime of a reactor. So we have, if I understood it right, for the next 40 years, if you have a contract, the contract remains, and you have a stockpile. So if somebody wants to disrupt that, at that point, I don't know what he is going to achieve. And if for some so arcane reason it becomes necessary to do that, you have corrective measures. So I think the issue of fuel supply assurances, unless I've missed out something on this, it doesn't seem to be the issue that we are. What we are, and I think Dr. Kakodkar said very pithily, if there is no perpetual supply, there is no perpetuity of the safeguard. So, but taking the thing off this kind of what I would call the semantics, I think if we have an IAEA safeguards agreement, and if a foreign supplier comes with a reactor, then we have a fuel supply agreement with him, and we have the right to go in for a stockpile. There may be a cost to it, I don't deny, but I don't think the cost would be as high as $150 a barrel or $200 a barrel at the kind of. So I think that isn't basically an issue. I think to the extent that it seems to be being made out, and I think that's what we wanted to clarify to this audience. I just thought, because this question, the same question is being asked over and over again, so I thought I'll try and put it in as much of a layman's language as I can, provided I'm right in what I said. Absolutely right. Okay. Now the issue is in the 123 agreement there is no reference to the Hyde Act. Right? There is a reference to cessation of cooperation. It may be under any number of circumstances. What we have done in the 123 agreement, I think it's Article 14, if I remember right, is that the circumstances under which a cessation of cooperation has been sort of induced or has been it will be explained. There's a time of about 1 year for this process to get underway. The security scenario in the neighborhood, etc., would be taken into consideration. So it is in that context that the thing has been done. So the Hyde Act, which seemed to be more peremptory in what they would do if you tested, etc., etc., does not find any mention as far as the 123. The Hyde Act is a US Act. The separation plan that we had was basically a separation plan between, primarily an Indian document. The 123 is an India-US document, and hopefully the IAEA will be an international document. I think we have gone step by step in moving up the ladder in this matter.
Dr. Kakodkar, pertains to reactors that we might build in this interim period, because we have a specialty in smaller